Hello, welcome to natemareflix. I am Nate. You are you, and Emily Blunt has pretty much let it out of the bag that A Quiet Place 2 will not be the end of the franchise, that we are in for a trilogy. We will be receiving A Quiet Place 3, especially with A Quiet Place 2 just absolutely murdering it at the box office right now. So I'm obviously very excited, and when I heard this, my mind just started turning out ideas for A Quiet Place 3. So today I'm going to present to you my 5 favorite ideas that I've come up with for what needs to happen in A Quiet Place 3, but I would also encourage you to play along at home or wherever you are watching this video. So if you have any ideas for what needs to happen and you have any suggestions, go down to the comments section and hit me with your ideas. I'll comment back and maybe we can get a good conversation going on about these films. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about my 5 ideas for A Quiet Place 3. Number 5, I think the son needs to die in A Quiet Place 3. So hear me out, because I know we're getting off on a grim note. But I think this makes a lot of sense. The first Quiet Place film, one of the reasons it was great was because they set up a scenario in which anything could happen and no one was safe. And the opening moments of the film, you see a child get killed by one of these creatures. And then John Krasinski, the guy from The Office, one of America's sweethearts, he sacrifices himself for his family in a very poignant moment. So I think you need to carry that all the way up into the end, and you need to let it be known that there's not just plot armor galore in this franchise. Anybody can get it at any time, and I nominate the son because I think it makes sense for his character arc. For the most part, to this point, he's been a bit of a little sniveling coward, you know? Stepping up to the plate quite literally is not his forte. We see that in opening moments of A Quiet Place 2 when you see him at bat. He's just not great under pressure. Now, the film does end with him finally stepping up and saving his family. So let's continue to progress him. And if he does lay it all on the line and he does die in order to ensure that the rest of his family members can go on at least for a bit longer, it would be like him picking up the mantle of his father. He saw his father do the very same for him, and now he is filling the shoes as the family patriarch, if you will. It's a bit of a clumsy thing to say, I know, but I think it would still be emotionally poignant, just like it was when John Krasinski died. I think a lot of audience members would not be expecting it. It would restore that idea that anything can happen and no one is safe in this final act, and it would just be kind of cool. Number 4 is not so much something I want to see, but what I do not want to see, and that is a forced love relationship between Emily Blunt's character and Cillian Murphy's character. So often in big movies, they think they have to do this, that you have this well-known actor and this well-known actor, and they are leading characters, so they gotta love each other, right? I mean, it just makes sense. Emily Blunt is missing a husband, Cillian Murphy, he's missing a family. Emily Blunt, she's got children. Boom, these puzzle pieces fit each other, right? No, there's no need to go there because we didn't really set that up so much in A Quiet Place 2. So to try to make all of this come together into fruition all within one film, to introduce that they are now a couple, or to see them start to have this burgeoning relationship and then to pay it off all within one film, you'd have to rush it, and that's just not why we come to A Quiet Place. Especially when I would still like to see flashbacks of Krasinski. I don't want to see flashbacks of him with Emily Blunt, then Emily Blunt with Cillian Murphy, and have to take on all that while having an action-packed sci-fi creature feature. It's just not what I'm looking for from this franchise, and I know a lot of script writers and a lot of Hollywood execs, they really like to push this kind of thing in movies, and I just do not think this is the franchise for it. Number 3, I want to see our protagonists go on the offensive. And this latest film, a lot of times, even when they attacked, it was more of a defensive maneuver. They were cornered, and then, you know, they would play the stereo and they'd kind of fry the ears of the creatures, if you will. I don't want it like that. I want them to get a little bit more ballsy, a little bit more brazen. I want them to take the attack to the creatures in some way. I want them to weaponize sound against these creatures that prey using sound. One way you could do this is to set up traps, go a little bit gorilla style, get a little bit Ewok up in here, maybe ensnare one of the creatures in traps that is lined with, I don't know, some sort of chimes, bells, things like that, to where everywhere the creature goes, you now hear them coming. It's a lot like when you put a bell on the collar of an animal, so no matter where you are in your home, you know where your pet is. It would be that type of thing, and then you could then track them. Perhaps these creatures are all congregating in a central hub, much like a hive, and then you could have a full-on assault. You could turn covering the tables. They've been using sound all this time to track you down. Now, through the machination of some sort of trap, you can track them down through noise and flip the tables on them. I think that would be an awesome plot device, and it would be like a full 180 from where we were in the first Quiet Place to where we are now in A Quiet Place 3. Number 2, with a creature feature like this, I think it is natural for your mind to wonder to like, hey, if I had this creature, what would it look like if it was attacking in this setting? And I'm glad they understood that when they were writing A Quiet Place 2. And so we got to see the creature employed in various settings. We got to see it in a train, we got to see it on the docks, in the water, in a radio station, so on and so forth. And I would like to see them continue to play with different settings, because different settings offer up different types of scares, different levels of tension, and all sorts of different possibilities for you to compound problems. But if you take my last point and you follow one of the creatures back to where all of them are gathering, whatever their nest or hive is, just imagine that. Imagine seeing some sort of dilapidated warehouse that is all clear, except all of a sudden you turn a corner and there are just 50 to 100 of these damn things sleeping and huddled up in masses. That would be so cinematic, and it would be terrifying, and it would be a proper third film where things have to be bigger, badder, meaner, and just so big on scale. I would love to see what that would look like. I would love to see how these characters take on that new problem, and then just imagine those scenes. Imagine, you've always had to be quiet, but imagine now having those numbers. We always see like one creature or two creature. But what happens when you're faced with a whole nest of them? Which brings me to my final point. Number 1, I want a boss, alien, monster, creature, whatever you want to call it. This thing has been done a bunch in the past, but it always works, and that's because it is an ingenious plot device. Because what happens when you take one of the creatures and make it head and shoulders above all the others is you now have a situation with an actual villain. You are now pitting your heroes against one central antagonist that, as an audience member, you can discern from all the rest. You have an understanding of what they want, and they seem much more menacing because there's something about them that all the others look to, and that one is the leader. You've seen it with Gremlins, with Stripe. You've seen it with the Planet of the Apes trilogy. You saw it with Aliens, with the Queen Alien. So I suggest you create a queen or king creature that is scary, bigger, badder, meaner, nastier, more gruesome, more vicious, more brutal. Maybe it's even willing to kill off some of its own. That always packs a punch and rattles you as an audience member, because you're like, man, if it's going to just slaughter its own, what is it going to do to these people I love so much? That's what I'm saying. So imagine that big bad boss perhaps killing the sun, like I mentioned in point number 5. I think that would be super dramatic. I think it would be super impactful. It would be really entertaining. It would be scary. It would be intense. And it would be a lot of fun, but also be way different than anything that happened in A Quiet Place 1 or A Quiet Place 2. And how do you make the boss stand out? Well, like I said, you can make it bigger in stature. We could also maybe give it some gnarly scars. Perhaps something about its physical appearance is slightly different. It just happens to grow bigger, but it also has maybe different horns, or something about its pincers is different. Maybe there's an action sequence that leaves it maimed or covered in paint, something like that. So no matter where this thing is on screen, even if it's around like a dozen other creatures, you go, that's the one we need to look out for. That's the one that all of our events in the movie, it is putting us on a collision course with that damn thing, and I don't know if I'm ready for it. That is what I would like to see in A Quiet Place 3. So go ahead and let me know your ideas down below. Like I said, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. It would help so much. A lot of fun content just like this coming your way in the future. Other than that, guys, thanks for watching the video. Hope you have a fantastic day. I'm Nate for natemareflix saying that's a wrap.